Hello, everyone. Welcome to Loud and Proud Orlando. Thank you so much for everybody that's live. We are live on X finally. Thank you, Elon Musk, for fixing that stuff. It's full of stuff. Yeah, X, Jesus. And thank you to everybody watching on YouTube. We're Loud and Proud Orlando. I'm here with David G as well. Today, we're going to be diving in some topics that happen, some events that happen during the day. So stick around, make sure that you are watching and paying close attention. We're going to be discussing today Ricardo Moreira's press conference. So just to let you know, I have the footage that hasn't yet happened from communication. So it will be up in our pod, in our YouTube channel later on. It's going to be time stamped. It's going to be dissected, just like we do all of our videos. But right now, I do not have it. Now, I was part of the press conference. I do want to tell you, I asked two questions. I think it was a very insightful press conference. It was kind of like Ricardo by himself. I was expecting for Martin Perelman to be there. I was expecting for um, Manuel Goldberg to be there, but no, Ricardo was just like taking the spotlight, and I think makes a lot of sense. We have some snippets from Mike Ramajo that he wrote on X, so thank you to Mike and Wesh too. Appreciate you guys. Then we'll talk about the expectations for Orlando City versus Montreal. What can Orlando City do to defeat the CF Montreal team that's coming on high momentum? So, and then we'll discuss potential lineups for the game. FYI, I've invited my good friend uh, um, from the Ball is Round podcast, Mr. Elias Grigoriadis. I think I spelled it right. Elias Grigoriadis from the Ball is Round Montreal podcast. He'll be in with me the same day of the game. So more than likely, this is going to come out on Friday. So stay tuned to all the social media. With him, we're going to be diving in with all the tactics and how is Montreal looking? Is Daggerdan really going to be a threat for Orlando City? So make sure you stay tuned to all of our social medias. We're Loud and Proud Orlando. Thank you so much for your support. Make sure you subscribe. Click the notification bell for all notifications. We're about 25 people live right now. And again, thank you. David, obviously we're coming to this press conference today at 2:30. It was between, obviously it was Ricardo Moreira taking the helm. The decision for Oscar Pareja and the club to part ways was announced yesterday, as you already know, while the 0-3 start and the 5-0 loss against NYCFC definitely was one of the catalysts, I believe, of kind of like the club saying, hey, we need to kind of part ways, man. Obviously, I know that you've seen a lot of the how the fans kind of reacted with some of the stuff that was sent down, not only from myself and from us, but also from Gormajo and from other accredited media. Oh, what are your thoughts of this?
Yeah, so number one, I just think the biggest thing about all of it is, we didn't expect to get answers to every single, question that we might have had in our heads, right? I think this was a mea culpa of like, hey, we're not happy about having to do this, but this was kind of just a situation that needed to happen. And so I think Ricardo did a nice way to navigate sort of what the discourse was going to be out there. The one thing I would say to people, though, is hold judgment. I know Ricardo said a few times, like, and he made it sound like they're going to give Perelman an opportunity to, like, potentially win the job. Like, I see somebody in the chat saying that. I've seen that online.
Nah.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think really his big deal was that he's basically saying, we support Perelman. We brought him here originally for a reason. We brought Goldberg here for a reason. We think these guys are more than capable to help this team navigate the next part of the season, which I think he's 100% right on. If you've never seen a Martin Perelman coach team, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to be an attacking time. I can tell you that for sure. But I think the biggest thing that really was like I got my impression from this press conference is they're not going to rush the manager hire, and I don't think they should. There is no benefit to rushing into this and trying to find your next manager, because for as much as the fan base wanted this firing to happen, I don't think you go into this being like, hey, you can't rush into this because you just had this guy here for 6 years, right? Going on a 7th season. And so I think the understanding needs to be that all of this stuff is going to take time and it's going to be a process. There's other inklings online saying that it's already like there's already a candidate being finalized and it's going to happen within the next 2 games and you won't see Perelman after the international break. I highly doubt that. I don't think the process is going to be that quick. From what I understand, at least from people that I've talked to. But I will say this: I appreciate Ricardo's openness to saying, "Hey, if Perelman does a bang-up job, like if Perelman goes and runs the gamut the next 3 games, then sure, maybe you kick the tires on Perelman and you go, okay, does this guy have the coaching chops?" But most likely it's going to be a manager from outside the club, right? So then what you're really doing today is you're telling people, hey, it's going to take us a little bit of time to find the right guy. Don't put us over a barrel if we don't find them quickly, but we're going to find the right manager to manage this club. It's going to be a right fit. And then the thing that I took the most, and I'm sure you agree with this with me, Luis, is he talked a lot about playing style. Like he wants to find a manager that has a different playing style. He mentioned that a lot. And the one thing that was interesting, and I don't remember the reporter's name, and I feel bad for this, but there was a reporter who directly asked him, hey, you've mentioned playing style a lot. Is that something that was like the main difference between you and Oscar and basically what ended up, showing him the door? And he was like, no, it wasn't just playing style that forced, had this happen and all that kind of stuff. It's just that he was like, Oscar had a different idea of what playing style was to what my idea of what a great soccer playing style is. And so I do think you might see a coach that's going to be more on the front foot and offensive, because to me what that says is the defensiveness of Oscar Pareja was not necessarily what this front office envisions this club to look like going forward. And so if you had some defensive coaches on your radar, you might want to put them lower on the list, because I just don't know that they're going to be somebody that they're going to look for. I think they're going to maybe look for a more high octane, go after it kind of coach. And you're going to see that this weekend, by the way, with Perelman, because Perelman's going to do just that. So, just an interesting press conference to kind of get, his understanding of what that looks like, and then really taking a lot of ownership for what this is, right? He talked a lot about, the buck kind of stops with him, right? He's the guy now. All these choices fall on his shoulders, that even if the manager was still here, it's really on him. He understands that there's a roster to still build here, right? He was asked the question, is there going to be more players coming in? And he said, the hope is to try to add this window, but we also know we have the summer. And so they talked about adding players and having a DP availability for the summer. So there's a lot of work that he has to do now. How quickly he does that work and whether or not he does it correctly will be really interesting. Now, to me, and Luis might have a different idea, I don't care about speed. I think Perelman can navigate this team through the next couple of weeks. What I care about is he has to hit on the manager, number one, and he has to hit on the DP, number two. Those are the 2 things he has to hit on, whether it's this window or when it gets to the World Cup window. Then the other players and things like that will come and fill out the roster and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of where my headset is now. I'll say this again. I think it was a great idea for the club to do a press conference and kind of assuage some of the fears and talk to a little bit about sort of what they've seen online, because they did see a lot of stuff that happened online and they wanted to give sort of Oscar an opportunity for like a final send-off of thank you, Oscar, and this is the new direction we're moving in.
Right. So, I mean, he started the press conference acknowledging the past, with obviously honoring Pareja, as Mike says here, noting obviously the pain, some of the fandom and the club and some of the players might feel, but definitely emphasizing a focus onto the future. Obviously, he reiterated the thanks to Pareja's leadership, including the U.S. Open Cup and the club record and all of that. Now, obviously, there is a different vision of, I think every single human being that watches the sport has a different vision on how they envision the sport. I think it's very hard. There's people that prioritize defense. There's people that prioritize offense. There's people that are very well balanced. There's elite level coaching like a Guardiola, like a Jurgen Klopp. It's just the way you see the sport. I do feel there was a little bit, it was time to part ways, because there definitely, you could tell after this press conference, there truly was a disconnect between Oscar and front office when it came to kind of soccer decisions, it seems to me. It seems that, the club wanted to go this way, and then Oscar wanted to go another way. And then obviously the best way was to mutually agree to part ways. So I think, Ricardo said, and again, don't shoot me. You can call Ricardo if you want, but he said, we just started the league. We can still chase getting far with this team. He obviously, as part of leadership, he's not going to throw his guys under the bus. He's not going to question their acumen or their resume. He's going to put him up there because he brought him in. Kind of like what he said on the press conference. He says, I brought in Martin Perelman. I know what he can do. If I brought him in, he would not be the interim coach. But I have that rapport with him, so I brought him in. So he's my boy, and I'm going to back him up, which is normal. You know what I mean?
Well, and Luis, there's a risk to that too, right? Because if Perelman comes out here and lays an egg, like, I'm not trying to put that out there, but let's say Perelman comes in and he gets blown out the next couple of matches before the international break, it's a bad look on everybody, right? It's a bad look on Ricardo because he owned up to it, and it's bad look on Perelman, right? So there's a risk in going out there and saying, hey, don't forget, I brought this guy in, he's my guy, and I have trust that he can go and hang on to it.
Right,
So,
I understand that, but again, that will be the same if you bring Wilfried Nansen into the helm. I mean, it will be the same if you bring Pep Guardiola into the helm. I mean, I mentioned it yesterday. I don't think it matters. I think what he's trying to say is there's a certain continuity of what Oscar did because he was part of Oscar's entourage, but he's not Oscar. And so there's going to be a different soccer philosophy from the get-go. Now, is it going to work? I have to give him all my support because, we work for the same company. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I'm going to give him my full support. But again, just like Mike Romajo says, because this took out of context. I saw a lot of comments on the bottom. It says here, and you have to understand, I feel bad for Mike because they took some of the tables up front. So it's just chairs now. So it's a pain in the ass to hold your laptop, hold your phone, and then you're recording, like, or it's just a little, or holding the mic while you're like trying to tweet. You know what I mean? So, Martin Perelman will have full support as interim coach. So pretty much Ricardo and his staff, Ricardo is going to support the coaches. He supports them, but it's open to a coaching search. So meaning is they're still going to look for another coach. That's pretty much what you're saying. So that means they're going to take their time to pick the right manager. That's pretty much what I take out of that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a thing of like, if he needs to, like, for example, if in your head you think an interim coach should be, I don't know, 3 to 5 matches, what Ricardo is saying is we're okay with him. Maybe really what the context of this is, and I mentioned this yesterday in our sort of emergency episode that we did. Maybe this is basically saying what I said yesterday is we're okay with Perelman leading the team until the World Cup break, right? We think he can get this team in a good enough space that we're okay, that if we want to make the permanent coaching hire by the World Cup break, we can, right? We can afford to do that because this guy will get this team to the level, right? And he mentioned, and I think this was a question from Alonzo, so we can shout out Alonzo for this, but he asked, I think not why Perelman in a bad way, but like, what made Perelman sort of qualified. And Ricardo talked about, well, he's seen all these players go through the academy and he's gotten
Right.
them to the first team level. And we sold some of these guys too. And we were able to do, and Ricardo mentioned a whole bunch of people, Alex Freeman, Granados, Gusky, anyone you can think of that's come through the academy. He mentioned them and said, Perelman's has touched all these guys, right? He's seen all these guys. He's progressed all these guys and all that kind of stuff, and brought out the importance of like, that's why you continue with the continuity of what you were building, right? Him and Goldberg have a very good understanding of what's coming up and how it's working, right? And that's what this team, and we mentioned this yesterday, Luis, that's what this team needs to do, is that you need to know what talent you have on this roster. And we kept complaining, for lack of a better word, in the beginning of the season, we didn't feel like Oscar was really giving everyone on this roster a fair chance to try to compete at the first team level, right? We didn't see some people get a lot of opportunity.
Even John and yourself say Pareja doesn't like the kids. Well, they're bringing two dudes that know the kids very well, and they're probably going to have a higher percentage of playing, because literally this team, unfortunately, guys, doesn't have a lot of depth. So there's going to be a lot of those short-term contracts. I think even Pedro Leal was mentioned in the press conference at some point. So Pedro Leal, I mean, guys, Perelman is Perelman's team for now. So he could make that. I mean, Pedro Leal is killing it with OCB right now. So if they feel like they need a short-term contract because they're going to try to see if that could put some pep in the step of Duncan Maguire, they're going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, now Oscar's not there to kind of shield and say, no, Duncan had my back, and Duncan, scored 13 goals 2 seasons ago. Like, no, now it's like, okay, we're going to bring this young cat is going to really play for a position now. And there's nothing you can do about it. We're going to try to play better. And he adds here, Moreira adds that it will depend on how things go under Perelman. So what that means, because I was there at the press conference, it means, just like David was saying, so they're the interims, they're going to take their time, but also, they're going to try to, if let's say Orlando goes into an 8-0 winning streak, he makes the case, kind of like what happened in Atlanta with Rob Valentino. You know what I mean? Rob Valentino came in, they went into a really good momentum high. The team was playing great. But then Rob Valentino at the end didn't get the job. There, here it says, we'll see how things go under Perelman. You know what I mean? But he's not saying, oh, no, Perelman's going to be your coach. You know what I mean? So don't jump into conclusions. I know there's a lot of speculation, but I do think, going back to what David's saying, they're going to hire a new coach. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. Whether Perelman comes out alive out of this number of games, I think the way I kind of read the room there is that Ricardo is ready to get a new manager, but it has to be the right manager, right?
Well, so if you look at the reverse of it real quick, is that let's say him and Goldberg bomb. Let's say if they get blown out the next couple of games, right?
Right.
Then it probably tells Ricardo we need to make the manager selection quicker, right?
Quicker,
we need to get the new
right.
manager in here as soon as we can. So there's both sides of that coin, right? If they're doing pretty well, let's say, because most likely what will happen is it'll be somewhere in between. I don't expect them to be terrible. I don't expect them to be world beaters, let's say. But what's going to probably happen is they'll get a couple of games, and the better they do, the better it will be for them to step up a little bit, right? And be able to wait a little bit longer for the right manager and all those kind of things. So,
and then after talking about Perelman, he said, and I put on there, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, I loved, and you guys are gonna laugh, but he kind of has a little bit of a sense of humor, because you got to smile around this time. You cannot be anal around this time. Sorry, I use the word anal. Yes, You cannot be pooty face, pouty face, Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. You know, he's making tough decisions. He's owning up to it. He looked like aura, bro, like boss aura. He looked like, he was smiling, he was cracking jokes. He even said his dog's name is freaking Pep Guardiola in the press conference. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, he was just like, I like that. I think we needed that from front office, and their only front office is listening to you guys. I mean, clearly, I think the decision to pull the plug has a lot to do with the fans as well. So let's read some comments real quick here. John, how you doing, my friend? If the kids all click and the veterans listen to Martin because they know him, then it could all click really fast. Yeah, I am hopeful. Yeah, me too, man. I just ready for, like I said, like everybody ready for change. That is true. Basically, keep honestly, as far as I'm concerned, Ricardo is cooking like crazy. He's going to put the right person in the right spot. I think he may be the savior to this entire season. Quite honestly, what do you think about that, David?
I mean, we'll see. I don't want to go. I don't want to go as far. No, I think I am in the camp now that this roster is a bit incomplete, and so I don't think I can give him an A on the season so far. Let's see how he navigates the rest of it, right? Like I've said before, if he nails the manager hiring and he nails the DP signing in the summer, Keeb, you and I can, we can wax poetic all we want, but he's just got work to do still, I think.
It says here, can't wait to see who the interim coach starts the next game. Will it be different or similar to Pareja? Well, that's, I think, something that David's going to dive into, is I think he knows a lot about OCB. He's probably seen a lot of OCB games. We play so passive and boring. People were tired about the constant parking the bus. And yeah, that is a philosophy. That's a soccer philosophy. And I think Oscar's soccer philosophy is kind of like, I don't want to compare, people are going to kill me, like Simeone, or like old school, like you're winning 1-0 at minute 70, and what you're going to do is just trying to put more defenders and not really attack at all. So there are managers like that, and they're very successful, and there are managers that just are a little bit more like, and he mentioned this, he mentioned after this, says we need to be pragmatic because we need points. So he addressed the need of points. It doesn't matter. He indicated the short-term priority on results to stabilize the team amongst or amid the early season struggles. He said, we need to be pragmatic. We need the points. An attacking Orlando City team, it's been so long. I know, right? We have the players for it too. Dame Wilfried. There you go. I know, bro. I like Wilfried Nancy. I was talking to Alonso about Wilfried Nancy. He's team Wilfried Nancy too, but I don't know, man. I like him. He's proven MLS, bro. I know. What are your thoughts there, David? Wilfried Nancy?
Yeah, Nancy's my number one. Nancy's my number one, MLS experienced manager, understands the league, knows how it fits, all that kind of stuff. I think if you're looking for a bigger build and you want an MLS guy, Jim Curtin is that guy you look towards. But I think Orlando City is a little bit past that at this point. I don't think we really need to build as much as, we did when Oscar and Luis Muzi came in. I'm still a high Felipe Luis guy if his brain isn't already in Europe. I know that's a lot of the discourse online is that, well, he wants to go to Europe. He doesn't want to come here. And I get that. But if he wants a stop, let's say he wants a 2-year stop in between or a 3-year stop before he goes to Europe, this would be a nice club for him to go do that. And he would also be able to play in a lot of different competitions and be in a different market, have a few Brazilians on his team that he would be rather familiar with because he just came from Flamengo and all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people want Big Ange. I know that's been one of the big things going on online. Big Ange. They've been talking about it a lot. But they've been wanting him a lot, but I don't know if any of those sort of English manager lifers are going to want to head this way. What's the draw, I guess, is my question. But listen, if you're looking for the best manager out there, you turn over every rock and you kick every tree, right? It just depends on what it looks like, I guess. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
we'll
know.
dive into some of the room. I think we have a couple of rumors of
Yeah,
coaches
there's a
already.
few out
So
there. Yeah.
yeah, so basically, keep growing pains are certainly to be expected. I'm hopeful that our players find a groove in the sand to impress the interim and put on a class show from here on out until we find a head coach, of course. To be fair, Ricardo said he was open to a job search. Isn't that the whole point? Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I think our bigger comment on the whole manager thing was just it is an open job search. But again, if Martin Perelman plays himself into a job, I think Ricardo was basically saying today that like we won't be above, you know, hiring him if he's the best manager. Like if he comes out here and he like I'm not going to put too much stock in the Montreal game because Montreal I still don't think is that great of a team. So let's hold our reservations. But the week after we go to Nashville and play Nashville, right? If we go to Nashville and beat the brakes off of Nashville, then come back after the international break and beat some of those big opponents like we have LAFC and a couple other big teams that are in there, then yeah, I think you sit Perlman in a room and say, hey, you really seem to have gotten this going. Do I think that's likely to happen? No, I don't think it's likely to happen. I think this team goes out and gets a much bigger manager, and that's probably what ends up happening. Though I would still like, if Perlman does well, for him to still have a spot in the organization. I think he deserves that if he's a good caretaker manager and can help the team navigate all this. So,
yeah, yeah, you're completely right on here. I'm gonna read some more comments. Is here evening, gents? Pleased to see you both again. This next match will be a statement for the club. Hopefully, a welcome change and a more attack-focused set of starters and bench players. Thank you to Kenneth as well. Thank you to Vinco. Thank you to Daniel Vega. Appreciate you guys. Anegron says, sounds like Martin will be given the opportunity first as a coach. Well, I mean, he has to. He's an interim. You know what I mean? Sounds like the club aren't going to search for a manager. Nah. I think they're going to search for a manager.
they're going to search for a manager.
Yeah, definitely. Now, and I touched on it yesterday after David left. There's cases in which the interims work out for the best, and then they become really good managers. Like for example,
True.
Scaloni, that was one. Rob Valentino, that was another one. You know, you have a lot of them like that just come out and they become like Joseph Mourinho. Before he was a translator for Barcelona, like, and then he transitioned to be a coach. So, I mean, anything can happen. But I do feel like division is, like David was saying, a change of style. You know, and I think that's what, and that it's you. That's you guys. That's you. That's the people that are watching this show. That's people that are watching all the other shows. You guys spoke about this, and now the front office is listening. So obviously, with growing pains, indeed, if Martin works hard at work as he does in the gym, then he will be very successful. Man has some very impressive calf muscles. What? Come on, man. I've never seen his calves, man. That's TMI, man. We should get Sean Dyke and play pure Brexit ball. There you go.
I'm good.
David, if I'm wrong about Ricardo, come to the World Cup break. I owe you a brewski at the stadium, LOL. A gentleman's agreement.
Listen, I don't want to be wrong about Ricardo. I was on here in the offseason banging the drum, and I still have a lot of confidence in Ricardo, probably more than a lot of the fan base does. So, Ricardo, if you're watching, I got you, brother. I feel you. I just wish you the best because I know you have a lot on your plate. But hinting at Pep coming. Oh, Landon, come on.
Man,
if only.
if Pep,
only.
If Pep comes, let's say Pep wants to come
Talk
to
about
Disney,
legendary press conferences, man. Right there.
bro. If Pep comes in, bro,
Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
I mean, that'd be huge. I mean, you know what I'd do? I'm like, hey man, here are the keys of the whole entire.
He'd go to NYCFC before he comes here. He's staying in the city.
Here's the keys for all the buildings. There you go, man. You can live here if you want. Like, you can do whatever you want here.
Ain't no way, man.
The nerdyverse, F it out, F it. I'll have Ricardo up top at 9. We're gonna see Ricardo at 9. Says there you go. John Rollins says, would you rather sign Nancy plus Antoine or Big Ange plus Richarlison? I'm going for Nancy Antoine, bro.
I agree. I'm actually with you on that, and just by a little bit, because I think Nancy gives you because I don't think Nancy's going to make the European jump again. I think he, after he's been burned this time with Celtic and everything like that, I think he's going to want to be in a situation that he's familiar with. We get Griezmann in, who raises the level of our DPs. He brings us a set of class to the locker room and all the leadership that he has, and he can still play. If you saw him in that game against Spurs, and yes, I know Spurs are bad, but if you saw him about that, like, oh boy, man, the two of them together would cook. And then, like, I think Richarlison's been better as of late, but his injury history worries me. His commitment and his
attitude.
focus. Yeah, his focus worries me.
I just never like his attitude.
Yeah, I'd rather have like a Lukaku who's out of contract. What is it? I think this summer at the end of the year, like, kick the tires on him, see if
Ricardo,
he's got something.
Make it happen.
But if Big Ange can bring in Lukaku, then okay, I'll take Big Ange and Lukaku. I'll take that. I'll take that deal.
Well, but I think Felipe Luis, is there a Griezmann and Felipe Luis connection? I believe that they play at the
like 3 or 4 years together, I think. Right?
Yeah, so they played on Griezmann's first stint with Atletico.
Yep.
Before he went to Barcelona. They parted ways. They became really good. They're really good friends. Now, again, these are the growing. And I was talking with Alonso on the way here, on the way to my house, and he was telling me, he's like, so what do you take? So if Wilfried Nancy's MLS proven, 110%. He's won a championship, he's won a Leagues Cup, he's done a lot of good things. But you got a guy like Felipe Luis that has played elite level soccer.
Yeah.
Something that Nancy played amateur. He never played the first division of soccer. So he's never played.
I don't know that part matters, but I get what you're getting
at. It matters when it comes to, like, I mean, if you are, let's say, Koke.
Sure.
Right? And you know, are you gonna pick up the phone from Wilfried Nancy, or are you gonna pick up the phone of Felipe Luis? So I think the connections, his player connections, because they're more recent, because he's like 40, so he's very young still.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it's a gamble on the experience side, which is the same thing that Inter has done with Mascherano in a way. But you get in return more eyes on your team because of who he is, and a knowledge of your Brazilian players. Like I was telling Ricardo on the question I asked him, was like, what kind of profile of manager are you looking for? Because you have a Brazilian U22 squad, essentially. So
to balance that out, though, Luis, is Felipe Luis, though, probably isn't long-term for your team. He's probably only here 2 or 3 years at most, right? And then he's going to move on. So you take that risk of, do you think you could get the best team in 2 or 3 years with this guy, hoping that he can close the deal on Griezmann, hoping that he can close the deal if Pasalic wants to go back to Europe, of maybe getting another DP in and closing the deal on that. And so you're right. He does have that pull that Nancy doesn't have. But I think the question that goes into it is, do you want a manager? The front office has to ask themselves, do you want a manager who's going to bring in top-level talent while also having a connection to your South American talent that you just brought in, which is Felipe Luis, but knowing that he's on a clock, 2 years, 3 years at most, right? Or do you want a manager like Nancy who knows he's good in this league to very good in this league, can help you build out a team really well, can use your youth talent as well, but he's not going to help you in the boardroom when you're trying to convince a Griezmann or, you know, whoever, whatever other star you're thinking of trying to bring here, right? He's not going to maybe move the needle for you there, but if he helps you stay in the top 4 in the East every single season, which Nancy can probably do for you, that also maybe will convince a player to say, oh, well, they're a really good team. Maybe I'll go and do that. So, and plus right now, the other benefit that we do have is some players will look at Messi being in Miami as a benefit for them coming to Orlando because they want to fight the great, right? They want to go and beat the great at his own game, right? Some people will think about it that way. So like Neymar, I think, made a statement about that of like, I don't want to play with Messi. I'd rather beat him. I think he said something like that, a couple months back or whatever.
Hey, man,
well, he's hurt again.
I'll give you Tam, Neymar.
He's hurt again, so I don't want to go down that road.
Tam.
I think that's the question you have to ask yourself, is that where is the front office's head in all of this, right? So I think the better route right now is you take the chance on Felipe Luis, that he does the same thing he did with Flamengo. He brings it to Orlando. You get 2 or 3 good years out of him. You also get him to help you get Griezmann and potentially somebody else. We'll see how many spots are open. You bring him over here, and the ownership makes money back on Griezmann because the jersey sales and the butts and seats and all that kind of stuff. He plays an attractive style of soccer. If you watched Flamengo, they're obviously one of the best teams in South America, so that's not an argument. That's just a fact.
Yeah, true
and he was under their reign for that. I actually got to watch the 8-0 drumming, his last game, where they blew the socks off of that team 8-0 or whatever that was. That was crazy. And then for those of you that don't know, he plays a 4-2-3-1, so we wouldn't have to change style. He just doesn't play it with 2 6s. He plays it with a 6 and an 8 because he thinks he wants that second midfielder to be free-flowing and just kind of be able to feel the game. Right now for them, that's Nicolas de la Cruz, who I've had a crush on him since he was 20. Not like that kind of crush. I mean like a player crush. I've always thought he's a really good player.
From Uruguay. He's great.
Yes, from Uruguay, yeah. So I've always liked them, and he's a baller for them when he's healthy. He's been banged up a bit.
River Plate. I saw him in River.
Yeah. So he's one of those people that you kind of look at. But I saw Space Coast Alliance just put on here, is Vermees an option? I think he's just played out. He's just Oscar, right?
What about Bruce Arena?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're the old guard of MLS, and I just don't know their style works anymore in MLS.
Do you feel like Oscar is in that list of old guard? I think so
he's part. I think the only one left in the league now is probably Bruce. I can't think of somebody else who's left of that old guard that is kind of how that works. So the Nerdyverse, Felipe Luis was let go because I think he had his eye on Chelsea, right? He had his eye on another job in Europe, and then apparently he got distracted, and
also they went into a slump of games.
In the beginning of the season.
They went into a slump of games, and then also they were trying to, Lucas Paquetá was coming in, and Lucas Paquetá, they bring a lot of top talent from Europe at a good age.
That was a big deal down there, a huge deal that they brought in.
They want to make the team around Paquetá, so they sacked them to kind of
Paquetá started off slow. He started off not good from the jump, and they blamed him for not getting him up to level, which I think was unfair, but I mean, that's what it is down there, right?
I back Ricardo also. People who said this squad isn't good is a snap judgment, in my opinion. Let's judge the signings at the end of the season, not before. I agree with John, right? I linked them because they were players under those managers. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, John. Okay, I get that.
That makes sense.
Well, Luis, sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, the pick a pep. That's right. I forgot that. Yeah,
with Oscar. Yeah.
I forgot that. As a last thing about coaches before we move to the Montreal match, the talk that Luis was talking about of we've been linked already, there was an article that came out yesterday from RTI Sports. They cover a decent amount of Brazilian football down there.
You want to share it?
What's that?
Are you able to share it or no?
I don't have it up in front of me. I just have the
okay.
Notes,
It's fine.
Sorry. I know it's on my Twitter. I have the article on there, but
I'll look it up.
Yeah, they basically said that when they were talking to a couple of the sports agencies down there, they confirmed that Felipe Luis was a viable option for Orlando City, and that there was sort of conversations happening already around Felipe Luis, and it could have been something as simple as let's just feel it out and see if he's interested and if we're interested and all that kind of stuff. So there was that. That was the first big name that they had mentioned in the article, which was kind of interesting. But they mentioned a couple other coaches in that same kind of article. I'm pulling up my notes real quick. Sorry, I was a little unprepared. But some of the other names that they had mentioned in the article were Hernan Crespo, which I know Luis is not high on, but he was at Sao Paulo, I believe, for a little bit. And he's been in South America for a while. And then Dominic Torrent, who was just with Monterrey. Both of those coaches were also linked as well. This outlet said that with the agencies that they work with, they have heard those 3 names. And then the last one that was on that list was Martin Palmero, who was at Fortaleza as of recently. So,
yeah. So to give you guys a little bit of a history. So Hernan Crespo was one of the top forwards in the 90s in Serie A in Italy. He played for Parma. He had a tremendous, he's played for top clubs in Europe. He was a phenom with Albiceleste, before Messi, after Maradona, before Messi. So him and Gabriel Batistuta, who play in Fiorentina, were unstoppable. So if you're old, you probably know who I'm talking about. So he was a really good player. Unfortunately, I personally feel is if we're looking to move away from playing safe, which is what Oscar was doing, you know what I mean? Crespo tends to do that. So Crespo tends to pull the park the bus thing. So that's one thing that I just want to be clear. Now, here this is the article that David was talking about from Wilson Pimentel from RTI Sporche or RTI Sporche in Brazil. It says Orlando City uh, parts ways with coach and likes Felipe Luis and three more. That's what it says here. And it says here, Felipe Luis, ex-coach of Flamengo, former coach of Flamengo. It's seen as an option, a viable option for Orlando City. He, the club couldn't, he says here, he's trying, the club is trying to turn around this bad moment going on. They're going to face Montreal on Saturday. And so, and it mentions kind of like the history of Felipe Luis. So, and then aside of Felipe Luis, it says here, they're looking into, there's other names coming up like Hernan Crespo and Dominic Torrent, which had a stint with NYCFC. So, yeah. It says here, we are only looking at managers who are unemployed, but we could poach someone from Europe or South America in the summer. Post World Cup manager chaos will be happening then. Going to dinner, great show. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I predict we smash Montreal 4-1 with a new manager bounce. Hopefully, the boys will be free and unchained. This says DDT wouldn't do that to me. Dagger. That's a good one.
Sorry, everybody. I had some technical difficulties. That was odd. I apologize.
Yeah,
for that.
so I was showing everybody the article, and I was kind of translating what it says. So it says here,
Gotcha.
RTI Sporche says that Felipe Luis is being looked to a viable option for Orlando City. It says here, right here, Felipe Luis, his record was 101 games, 63 victories, 23 draws, 15 losses only. So aside of that, he won Copa Libertadores in 2025, which actually was a tremendous game. I do want to say it was, if you like soccer, you got to watch that game. It was amazing. He also won the Campeonato Brasileiro of 2025, Copa do Brasil, Supercopa do Brasil. So in literally that span of him coaching Flamengo, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trophies. So tremendous. Then before that, he worked in the U20s and U17s of Flamengo. He commanded these under 17 to win the Copa Rio, and then the under 20s Copa Intercontinental as well. So he had 2 titles with the unders. So the dude's like, anything he touches is gold right now when it comes to Flamengo. So I mean, I think also RTI Sporting may be looking at Ricardo Moreira, Brazilian. And Ricardo was laughing because when I asked him that question, because he's like, I know I'm Brazilian, but our coaches are Argentinian. You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't matter where I'm from, but I think everybody's kind of tying the threads in a way, because think about it. Ricardo's Brazilian. We need to play fun. We need a fun soccer, right? Attacking soccer. We need also a balance. We need a young coach that's not burned out, that's looking to win stuff, that knows some of the new core of the team. So the Thiagos, the Luis Otavios, the Iagos, he knows those cats. Like, he knows them. He's going to probably try to get the best out of them. And he's a former Flamengo. We have a good relationship with Flamengo and Palmeiras, especially more Flamengo, because also Ricardo's a Flamengo fan. So it just all kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of works. But The only thing I'll say that he doesn't have that Wilfried Nancy does have, Wilfried Nancy has that MLS resume proven. You know what I mean? But doesn't have the eyes as Felipe Luis would have because of what kind of player he was. So it's a give and take, and it's going to tell you kind of where the team is going to go. You know what I mean? So it says breaking news: John Rawlings convinces Pep Guardiola to coach Orlando City. That's why he's in Europe now, scouting for new OCSC coaches.
That was my joke about Big Ange.
So did he work with Iago? Yes, he worked with Iago. He knows Iago. He knows Pedro Leao as well.
Yep.
A lot of the kids from OCB, the Brazilians, he knows. Like I said, if DDT scores, it would be wise of him not to celebrate. If he does, that supporter section, yeah, I know. I don't think he'll celebrate. With DT scoring the first goal, says Guilla Carlos. Says, I agree with John. Let's sit down with Jose Mourinho. No, man. Jose Mourinho is kind of like Poppy as well. He's very defensive. So, I don't know.
Make some good pressers, but yeah.
Yeah, and then he'll like yell at you, and he's like, yeah, please ban this guy. He's asking too many good questions. So we're going to be discussing what's coming next. And what's coming next is Montreal, man.
Yes, indeed.
So, number one, to be honest with you, to me, we're going to return to Interco Stadium with a new with a new interim group of coaches to take on CF Montreal. Martin Perelman will call the shots on Saturday. Orlando's trying to earn their first points of the season after 3 straight losses. The wall's going to be there. The crowd's going to be there. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of positivity when he comes and expectations to hopefully and I hope if the players are watching, try to give the fans a W. You know what I mean? At the helm, Javier Otero, which I feel he needs to step up in this game. This is his time to shine. Crépeau won't be available, but he needs to mentally prepare himself for what's coming. He needs to be better overall. He's not convinced a lot of people. And then again, we need to improve on the defense. I don't know what Perlman's tactics will be defensively, but I think we need to get more out of Colin Gusky. Gusky's going to be back. Nolan Miller and Iago are pairing. I would like to see a Nolan Miller, Iago under Perlman, see what he can do with those two. David Brecalo personally has not been good as a center back. I know Brecalo doesn't want to hear that, but bro, you're still in the PNL. So, if you need to play left back, play left back. But all my per sources, it seems like Adrian Marin will start. Now, at this point, we need full team defense. Full team defense. And then another thing we would like to see is Duncan Maguire, man. What's happening with Duncan Maguire? I really feel like Duncan Maguire, man. I haven't seen a good Duncan Maguire in a while. We haven't seen the backflip in a while. I remember when he ended Michael Bradley's career. Remember that, David? So what are your expectations from the get-go out of this game?
Yeah, I think the first thing that fans should be cautious about is I don't think you're going to see a lot of changes going into this game just because he won't have a lot of time to make a lot of different adjustments. I agree with Luis. I've been hearing that Adrian Marin is back, so he's probably going to end up playing left back, which, like I said in other shows, I'd rather Tari Reid Brown just get more of a run out so we can see what he has. At the end of the day, though, Perlman's seen both of them at this point, so he should be able to tell us which one of those two is going to kind of fit the style better. I do wonder if he can get more out of Iago. We haven't seen the true Iago yet, so I'd like to see what we have there. I'd like to see more of Otavio. Like I said on Lions Den yesterday, I joined the boys over there for a little bit. I thought he was good up until he made the tackle that gave away the PK. But we need to see more of them. 20 minutes, 25 minutes isn't enough. So I'd be interested to see what that looks like. But what's interesting is if you don't know kind of how Perelman ran his teams, he liked to run a 4-4-2 when he's with OCB. That's his desired formation. And then sometimes, depending on what it would look like, is he'd also play a 4-3-3 to also be more attacking. So do I think we're going to see it in this game? No, but don't be surprised if maybe against Nashville we try to do something a little bit different and maybe go into a 4-4-2 or potentially a 4-3-3 and kind of see what that works, how that works. But I do think the biggest thing is Duncan has to get going. They have to find a way to get Duncan going. And I don't know if it needs to be consistency. I don't know if they need him to play a different way, if he needs more service.
I think all of them need a pep in their step, in my opinion. But Duncan needs that conversation. Hopefully Perelman has that conversation and be like, hey, man, what do we got to do to get you to score 10 goals this season at least? You know what I mean? Because he clearly is not the same Duncan before he went to Blackburn. You know what I mean? So it's a little, for Pareja to end his tenure with Orlando with Spicer as number 9, even though he denies that he's ever put him as a 9, it's a little worrisome.
And then I will say the other thing about this game that I have heard is, unfortunately, we might not see Thiago. He's dealing with a knock. He's been dealing with a knock all week, which is a bummer for me because I thought this would have been a great opportunity for Thiago to get involved. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen that way. The other interesting thing as well is with Thiago being down, that means Justin Ellis should be the next striker off the bench. I think this is a great opportunity to see what Justin Ellis has, right? I think it's time to maybe roll him out for a little bit or give him, obviously I don't think he's going to start, but give him a nice sub appearance and just kind of see what he can do at the top level. He had a great game with OCB last weekend, so maybe it's due time that you kind of reward the kid and kind of see what you can do. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of what that looks like. I also think Harvey Sajarin deserves an opportunity for the bench and then potentially to get in this game at some point. I think he's been really good for OCB. I personally think he's been the best player for OCB this season over the first 2 games. Some people disagree. That's okay. I just think he has been the most consistent. Last game, I think we saw all from him, not only just his speed, but his physicality, his shiftiness, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a thing. I think Caraballo probably ends up staying with OCB this weekend because remember, OCB plays on Saturday as well, but they play in Carolina, so you can't really mix rosters so much for that game. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how that works. Now, for Montreal, an opponent that also not great up until last weekend, right? They got a win last weekend against New York Red Bulls. They kind of figured out a way to dominate that game from start to finish. But I still think this is a pretty beatable opponent, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't want people to think that they came out, they beat Red Bull 3-0, we're in trouble. I mean, I want to give them credit. They got the win, of course, but this is still a very beatable team if you know how to play against them and kind of lock them down. Their center back core is still kind of gelling and getting to know each other. I'm still not convinced by Avulis either. I think that I don't think he's as good as people think he is. So I think this is an opportunity for Orlando to really get on the front foot and just go after Montreal from the first whistle. Press like crazy, push numbers forward, have the right guys in midfield to stop the counter on the other side, but really just try to get as many dudes forward as you can. I think that's why in this game you probably end up seeing Ivan Angulo start. I just don't think we've seen enough from Tyrese Spicer. So I think Ivan Angulo will start on the left wing. You'll have Paslic on the right wing. And then you'll have Ojeda either as the 10 if Perelman continues to play the 4-2-3-1, or you'll have Ojeda probably play up top with Duncan, and then Ojeda will just drift wherever he needs to drift to in order to, get in the right spots and do what he needs to do. So I think that's probably what ends up happening. I've heard from sources, a little bit of, I guess, breaking news is that this coaching staff values the upside and skill talent of Iago a little bit over Nolan Miller, from what I have heard from sources. I don't know if that means Iago will start over Nolan Miller, but you might see over time this coaching staff prefer to have Iago over Nolan Miller. So something to think about, something to watch. I don't know. Again, I don't know that this game will be the game where you'll see anything in particular, but I have heard that Perelman and Goldberg do rate Iago pretty high and don't rate Miller as highly on the back line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel based on what you're saying, both coaches. I mean, if you compare the coaches from Montreal, compare the coach from the interim coaches for Orlando City, they kind of follow similar paths. Like, for example, the guy's name is Marco Donadel, Italiani, spaghetti. It's me, Mario. So when it comes to him, he comes from Ancona. That's his last gig in 2023 before he hit Montreal. He came he was the manager of a 5th division of Italian football. Fifth. Like, that's like David G and I could play for 5th division in Italy, right? They pay you with baguettes. They pay you with pizza. Pay you with baguettes there. You know what I mean? They pay you with a queso di bufala, right? Then in 2024, he came to Montreal and became assistant manager for a year. And then he became they called the caretaker manager, so interim manager for 2025 for 35 matches. And then he got the job recently this year, January 1st. So New Year's, he bottled the bubbly and the champagne, dumped it, and obviously he became the manager CF Montreal. But he comes from he has a story with Fiorentina, which is a top club in Italy, as kind of like similar to maybe what Manuel Goldberg did with Barca Academy. You know what I mean? He's got a little bit of that under 17, under 20 kind of vibe. So it's a very similar coaching kind of style. I would even say that they're kind of very similar when it comes to acumen and resume. I think the integrating the youth, like David was saying, is going to be important. I think we're going to be seeing as a sub, more than likely, Harvey Sajarian and Tyrese Spicer as well. Maybe Tyrese Spicer probably will start. Will see a 4-3-3 formation more than a 4-2-3-1, more compact, emphasizing more attacking-driven possession, and vertical passes to wingers to get the most out of Marco Pasalic and Martin Ojeda, especially, or Tyrese Spicer and Marco Pasalic. And I feel like Manuel Goldberg, if you watch OCB, the midfield rotations he did on OCB, we may probably see, because Wilder Cartagena is not available. So we may see some fluidity there to kind of allow me.
To add a little bit more to what Luis is saying is, like, with OCB last year and a lot this year, is he hasn't had a lot of his first choice sort of midfielders, especially in the first game. He definitely did not have his first choice midfielders. And so not only did they have to swap in different players, but what he also did is, with OCB, you'll see one guy go forward and kind of join the attack while the other guy stays back. And then the next possession, they'll flip, and then they'll flip, and then they'll flip. And so they keep the opponent guessing on who's going to go forward, and it really causes havoc in the midfield. But then both guys in the middle know that their job was to still defend when they needed to go defend. So it's definitely it'll be an interesting pairing between Perelman and having Goldberg on the touchline to kind of see how Orlando City wants to play it and kind of work it out. It'll definitely be kind of fascinating to me. I do think, with, like Luis said, if it's a 4-3-3, it'll be a more compact 4-3-3 sort of in the midfield.
Yeah, so we're gonna see probably more like that. Um, you know, and yeah, so it's kind of like a 4-2-3 like that. So I'll probably say it's gonna be Pasalic here for sure. So Marco Pasalic. Um, who do you have as a striker? Would you
I
have
think it's Duncan. I think it's
yeah.
Duncan until he gets a chance under this staff, I think.
And then I'll probably see not Angulo, I'll probably see Spicer here.
No, I think it's Angulo though, because he's been your most
That's true.
consistent winger over the
Yeah,
season, you know?
yeah.
I mean, he's no longer going to have the safety net, so if he plays poorly, he's going to get yanked, but
I have a feeling we're gonna see Ojeda Atuesta right here.
yeah, I think he's finally fit enough to play.
And then um Ojeda
Teen show. Yep.
right here. Right here that he could kind of be more free in the middle. Same with Atuesta. He'll go more attacking mode, and Ojeda's gonna have to be the anchor.
Yep.
Who are gonna be your center bar pairing?
I think he starts with Miller and Brecalo, but
Yeah.
don't be surprised if he switches to Iago eventually.
Yeah, so this is the and obviously Crépeau is not going to be there. It's going to be
Personally, what I would do is if Marin has another stinker, because guys, against Montreal, he should not have a stinker. There should be no reason why Marin should have a stinker against Montreal. If he does, I consider kicking Brecalo back out to left back and seeing what Iago and Miller can do together.
and look, Dobro, Korki Bucek, like Brekalo, come on, bro. Like
I'm just saying, I think that's their best spots at that point.
man, if Duggar Dan Thorholson Brekalo, which is like what 5'6" he wins you an aerial duel, bro. Come on, man.
Also, I have other
Go
breaking
ahead,
news
man.
that I can share.
Go ahead,
That
man.
obviously the club alluded to a little bit today, but Robin Jansson has been training onto the side. He's been doing
Cool.
ball work and a bunch of other things. My sources have told me that his window got moved up. His recovery window got moved up. He's progressing really well. That he might not be out for as long as the club had initially expected. So I don't know if that means we'll necessarily still see him before the World Cup, but from what I was told, there is now a possibility that we could see him before the World Cup, whereas before it was very unlikely we would see him before the World Cup. So let's hope Janssen can continue to progress. And then, of course, when he does get back on the field, that he is the same Janssen that we expect him to be, because obviously, with the surgery again, he may have a bit of a drop off. So, but yeah, that's good news for us in the long term. He may be back sooner than we think.
Basically, Keith, I can't believe I'm saying, but yeah, give Angulo more minutes. Right now, Spicer's woofing it into the concourse. I'd rather have him more consistent crosses and shots into the seats. I feel like Spicer is just play more vertical and not be afraid of finishing the play. I mean, it's like having a taller Angulo. And
That
same
would
with
be
Angulo.
my statement to him. If I'm Perelman, I just look at Spicer and go, dude, just drive straight towards the net and nail the ball. I don't need
Yeah.
you to do anything else. Like, be direct. He does the same thing for Trinidad. He just like goes forward and he nails the
Boom.
ball. Or if he knows that he has one guy in the box, I forgot who their striker was in the last international call up. But if that guy was in the box, he crossed it. If that guy wasn't in the box, he played direct and went right towards goal. So like, just dumb it down to that. Like, that's what you need to do, dude. Don't overthink it,
And tactically, I have a feeling that I mean, again, I'm just an average Joe. It's opinion based. It's not. I don't want the coaching staff to think, what is this guy's talking about? But I think it's all about connections too. So if let's say you have Angulo or Spicer right here, have Ojeda right behind it. So if they do the crosses, like you develop a connection between these two, especially in a 4-3-3
Could be
that's
nice.
compact.
Yeah.
Especially like in a 4-2-3 that's compact, you're gonna have Angulo cut through the left, and then Ojeda can run behind, and then if there's a cross, he's gonna be right here to shoot. Same with they can do the same thing Pasalic with even the second Ojeda or even a Tuesta.
Well, I was going to say, Luis, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, in an official lineup when it came out, if Ojeda and Angulo were changed. Because remember, Angulo played in the midfield with Ojeda during that 4-2-2. So like, what if Ojeda played left, technically started left wing, and then Angulo was the left-sided midfielder? They could play off of each other, and then Angulo can occupy the space that Ojeda leaves because Ojeda is going to want to cut towards net, and then that keeps you wide. So there are a couple ways to look at it if they roll out a 4-3-3.
Yeah, so that's another great assessment from David right here. I think, and it's all, and like Oscar was saying, it's all about connections, right? In a way, in a 4-3-3 compact, and it's all about connections. And also, I feel these two, the wings, they need to stay with the center back. So this needs to be a static back four that moves up and down. So
I wouldn't keep Dorsey attached to the line. Because my thought is Dorsey would occupy the space when Pasalic cuts in, and then I think when we go forward, it should be a back three of Marin, Miller, and Brekalo. Just all kind of like, to your point, be stout, play the line wherever you need to play the line, but kind of be stout and be ready there, and then let Dorsey fly forward, right? Dorsey's got the attacking chops. Let him go do what he needs to go do. But then that way you're kind of occupying spaces, and then so far it looks like Dorsey and Pasalic might have a relationship growing there, sort of like Freeman and Pasalic had last year, and that's what you're kind of hoping for.
And obviously we're talking tactics. Through NOCB, they had an average of 52 to 60% possession last season. Now, obviously, now you have vertical wingers like Ivan Angulo, like Marco Pasalic. So again, it's up to these two, this pairing of Perelman and Goldberg, to set up and make sure that, some of the Montreal's transitional threats, while they're going to try to build the chemistry in the mid, are completely shut down. So the coach comparison we already mentioned, very similar. I think they're both very similar. Now, some of their best players, they have Prince Owusu, right? I think he still play there. Prince Owusu.
He's their striker.
Yeah, so he's pretty. He had 13 goals last season. So.
Well, and Luis, in my favorite kind of fashion, let's talk about the ref, because we always like to talk about the ref when it comes to Orlando City games. So Jair Marufo will take the whistle for this one.
Oh, wow.
For Orlando City fans, that's actually not a bad thing. Our win percentage with Jair Marufo in 14 matches is 50%. We win 50% of the time if Jair Marufo is our ref, and we average 1.79 points when he's the ref. So that should bode well for us on that. Unfortunately, guess who's his fourth official for the match? Miss Tori Penso is the fourth official for this match. So let's hope she doesn't get involved, because we know how the Pensos like to mess with Orlando City in a bunch of different ways. So that'll be interesting if she finds a way to get involved. And then for the Montreal side, guys, if you didn't know, they kind of play in a 5-4-1. So they're very compact when they defend, but they also like to let folks kind of fly forward. So if you look at their last game where they won 3-0 against New York Red Bulls, they play with a back three of Vera, Morales, and Thomas Aviles, the guy who was with Miami, who got shipped off. And then their fullbacks should be names that are familiar to you. Luca Petrasso plays out left, and then Dagger Dan Thorhalsen played right back for them, more like a right wing back for them in the last match. And then in the middle of the park, they have Laturi and Longstaff, and then Carmona and Jamie are on the outsides. Carmona is a very good up-and-coming young player, so you have to be careful for him. You got to know where he is at all times. So that's on Dorsey. I know Dorsey likes to get forward, but Dorsey's got to know where Carmona is, number one. But then if he's going to fly forward, Brian Ojeda or Brekalo need to be aware so they can make sure that Carmona gets covered, because he's going to cause issues on that left-hand side for Montreal. So that's the way Montreal is going to kind of line up. Their goalkeeper, he's pretty decent. Guillier, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's a pretty decent goalkeeper. I think he's one of their higher rated players on the season, funnily enough, which knows you're probably not having a great season if your goalkeeper is one of your higher rated players. But he should be pretty interesting. And then sort of my last tidbit about this game, in case you didn't know, obviously with Javier Otero having to start because Crépeau's out on a red card, most likely Tristan Himes will get a short-term call-up and will be the goalkeeper on the bench for Orlando City. And if you have not seen Tristan Himes play, he just started for OCB last weekend. He is a very good up-and-coming goalkeeper from Orlando City's academy. He's a 6'6", 6'7". He's a huge dude. He's even bigger than Otero. So if you think Otero's big, Tristan Himes is even bigger. He had a great game, I thought, for OCB. That goal was not on him. If you didn't watch the match, his defending wasn't super great. But he will be the backup goalkeeper and a very competent one, I think. Obviously doesn't have the MLS experience, but he is a very skilled goalkeeper. So don't be alarmed if you're worried about Tristan Himes backing Otero up.
Let's read some comments, and then I want to give final words. Basically, Kiev, we know Paslic likes to cut in from the right, have a clear shot and onto the right side of that net. Basically, Kiev, I could see Angulo more center focus. His speed and recovery could translate into speed on setting up a quick attack. Samuel says, Montreal fan here. Good luck for Saturday. We will probably lose, says Samuel.
Oh, man, that's a defeatist way to look at it.
That's okay, man. It's going to be a fun game. And how do you say this? Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't even know how to say thank you in French.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, give Angulo more minutes. There you go. When would they give Caraballo a shot? Well, it just depends on them. I think we're gonna probably see Caraballo for sure. I know that he was on the bench for OCB. Well, we'll see.
Well, I think he'll start for OCB this weekend, so that's why I don't think we'll see Caraballo this weekend, because they need a team to travel to Carolina. So.
Basically, Justin is overdue for minutes. The kid's insane. I completely agree with you.
Agreed.
Ojeda as a false 9, and Devlin as the target man. There you go. Duncan.
Yeah.
It says Duncan and Ojeda strikers. I could see it. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I just think Duncan needs something. You know, he needs. I feel like this team, some of the players are not. We need to have that. Like rah, you know what I mean? Like, get together, we're gonna go and we're gonna win. You know, like they need to be more motivated. But
like the Focus Ninja says here, they have to support Duncan. He needs more service. Agreed. He's got to get more service. So one of the things, if I'm Perelman this week, that I'm working on is finding a way to get Duncan more service. But then when he does get the opportunities, he needs to finish them. He needs to have a really good rate and put the ball in the back of the net when he gets them. That's why I think a 4-4-2 might be the better formation for Duncan, because if he has Ojeda right next to him, and Ojeda will play more as a false 9 like everybody's talking about, Ojeda can kind of give him more service and be able to give him the opportunities to finish those. All it's going to take for Duncan is one goal. You get this guy one goal and he'll start scoring. We know he can. He's just got to get the streak going. And I think once he does that, it'll be nice. All right, Luis, what do you have for your score prediction? I think we're at that time.
Yeah, so my score prediction for me is going to be 2-0 Orlando.
Oh, okay. So not only a win and goals, but also none against us.
Shut down from Montreal.
All right.
You know, hopefully.
Gotcha.
2-0.
I'm in the camp of 3-1. I think that's where I'm going to go. 3-1 Orlando City. I don't think we're able to keep the shutout just because I think we're still figuring out the defensive part of everything. I think Duncan gets a goal. I think Duncan Maguire gets a goal. I think Martin Ojeda gets a brace. So brace for Martin Ojeda. Duncan Maguire gets the goal. I'm going to say Ojeda maybe gets the assist as well. He's involved in all the goals. That's where I kind of look at it that way. I think Duncan needs to score, get him on the score sheet, get him going. I think it'll really help his confidence if he can, kind of step forward and do what he needs to do. So I think Orlando gets the manager firing bounce. They get their first points of the season, and we go into Nashville with the hope that maybe we can be competitive against Nashville.
Now, before we go, I do want to let you know we're going to be having a more like a deep dive tactical with my friend from the Ball is Round Montreal podcast. Is going to be coming out probably this week on Friday night. So stay tuned to that. I do want to say I want to thank the newspaper, Colombian newspaper El Colombiano from Medellin. And I want to also give kudos to my colleague, John Eric Gomez, right here. So he wrote a piece on Oscar Pareja. He actually spoke to Oscar. And he also tagged us here as a source right here. So thank you to him and to the newspaper there in Colombia. So LPO is international. So thank you. But this is something very interesting, which I'm going to translate right here for everybody. And this is quoted from Pareja himself. He spoke to Pareja today, apparently. And he says here, in conversation with our newspaper, Oscar Pareja explained his decision of why he mutually parted ways with Orlando. His decision responds mainly of the need to take a break after a decade of intense work in Orlando. He says, after 6 years and a half with Orlando, I think it was time to just put a stop to it. I'm going to look for a change, just like I feel like it's necessary, said the coach. The Colombian had a contract with Orlando, but he reached a deal with the club to end his cycle with them. And then this is quoting from Pareja. Don't shoot the messenger. It's right here. I asked the club for a deal to part ways because I had other 3 years with them, and the owners are very close and they understood. We decided to stop it right there. Also, Pareja emphasized that his decision, it's not related with any health issues. He says, I am very good. I'm in very good health, thank God, but I want to take a break. I want to be refreshed. I've been working 14 years without stopping, and you know how nerve-wracking and time-consuming is this job. It really takes a toll on you tremendously. This is the main reason. There's really no other plans right now for now. So that's the reason per Oscar. Now again, I mean, I personally commend him for doing that, but I also say he looked burned out. Personally, this is just my opinion. So that's what he come out on El Colombiano on the newspaper. So it was from Medellin. So thank you to everybody there. If Iago starts, then Montreal's goal will be an own goal. 2-1 Orlando win with a Duncan goal and an Ojeda goal, says the Focus Ninja. Basically, Keith, I predict 3-1 Orlando with a sub finding the net between 80 and 90th minute to make a statement. Samuel says 4-0 Orlando.
I wish. I don't think so, but I wish.
I mean, again, guys, take this result with a grain of salt. Let's not be overconfident. Let's go step by step. It's going to get tougher than Montreal. If Orlando gets a W, great. Let's celebrate. Let's kind of take the bad juju out.
Yeah, points are points. Yeah, and you take the points.
Points. At this, even Ricardo said, we got to be pragmatic. We need all the points we can. Take all the bad juju out. Take a cold shower. You know what I mean? But
the bigger match for me is Nashville the week after.
Yeah,
how does this team look against Nashville the week after? Because they're a serious opponent. I have them very high in the East this year for 100%. A reason. That's a team that if we can go to Nashville and be competitive and get points somehow out of Nashville, then I think this team you start asking questions. And the last thing I want to say too, Luis, is stop with the discourse that saying this team doesn't have talent. I'm tired of seeing online that people are saying this team does not have talent. That is not true. You still have 2 DPs who contributed a majority of the goal contributions last season on this team. There is talent still in those players. They have not fallen off, right? There are other players on this team who are going to continue to contribute and have talent. I don't want to keep seeing that this team does not have talent. That's not true. Does this team have holes? Absolutely. I will 100% agree with everybody that this team has holes. Did we downgrade in certain spots? I think we're starting to see that we potentially downgraded in certain spots. We have to just, like Ricardo says all the time, trust the process. You got to get through the summer window. You got to see what he's able to do in the summer window. You got to see when, with a new coach whose hands are going to be on these guys now, and now an interim, and then we'll get another coach probably later on this year. You got to see what these coaches can get out of these players. I am not convinced that the U22s that we brought in are all bad, as everyone keeps saying. I'm not convinced by that. I'm sorry. There is talent in this team. It's just going to take a different hand to figure out how to get this talent out and on the field.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support. This is Loud and Proud Orlando. Make sure you subscribe. Click the notification bell for all notifications. We're available on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on Blue Sky, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. You can also check out my good friend David G's X account. He always puts great stuff. I'm gonna right here put it up for y'all. So if you go to X and then you go and you look for La Doodler right here, 18. You get his profile and just make sure you hit follow, and he'll be right there as well. We're going to be covering the upcoming Montreal match, and then I have to go to the Pride game the Sunday, so it's a whole weekend of soccer. Thank you guys for your support. Stay tuned.
Go support Pride. If you can do a doubleheader this weekend, go support Pride. Yeah, those ladies are going to be really good again this year. Go support them.
Canales 7 says, 1,000% we have talent. Frustrates me to no end to when all I see is these people say we don't have any.
Thank you, Canales. I appreciate that.
Hey, Canales. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. The Focus Ninja. Thiago, I believe, can be another Enrique, but needs to get the time to prove it. Yeah, I completely agree. I agree. I feel he didn't get a good time.
I also think, to take it a step farther, though, Focus Ninja, I think he can be a better winger when he's asked to be a winger than Enrique ever could, because Enrique was just very direct, and that was fine. But Thiago can actually play winger. If you watched him at all at Bahia, and Luis can contest to this, he was a quality winger at Bahia for the first team appearances that he got. So he is a great double threat kind of weapon at striker and at winger. They just got to use him. They got to figure out a way to use him. Unfortunately, I don't think we see him this weekend, though, because I know he's carrying a knock, so I don't know how fit he's going to be for the weekend.
All right, well, thank you guys for your support. We'll see you guys on Monday, and vamos, Orlando. Have a good one, guys.
Vamos.
Thank you.